Well, hurrah! It's me. Which
do
is
I have to do that now? Since you're, do I have to? Because I have to go, hurrah, Sanjeev.
I don't think there's any. I mean, do you feel it?
Well, I do. I feel it, but it's the rule now. Has anyone done it? Has anyone gone, hurrah, Sanjeev?
I got a hurrah on social media after that particular show went out.
But not in person.
Not in person. I think, Mira,
the good lady, actor, writer, producer, her indoors.
Good lady, BAFTA fellow.
Yeah, BAFTA fellow. So I thought we've gone straight to that.
Indoors. She wanted to write in after that was mentioned on this show to say, look, do I have to do it? Because I see him every day.
Yes.
And that would get tiresome.
I think it would be funny, though, because repetition is a form of comedy. Repetition is a form of comedy.
It is indeed.
Thank you.
That's hilarious.
You were saying the other day that if you're in the presence of Mel Brooks, you feel duty bound to make Mel Brooks laugh.
I did.
Yeah,
the one time I met him.
Okay, so now I've made you.
You've done it.
I've done it. That's it.
I wish I'd made it more difficult for you. For those of you who are still wondering what the heck I'm on about, this is Sanjeev Bhaskar, and hello, and I'm sitting in for Simon. So I'm a sub, but also I'm sub Simon. I'm a bit less than Simon.
I think you're Simon adjacent.
Am I?
Yes.
That's
Sanj.
Is he?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I like that. I think he wants me to be slightly sub.
Okay.
So I'd be slightly sub Simon.
Okay. I'm not buying it. And part of the reason I'm not buying it is because you're here today. So usually if this was Simon, I would have gone to stay at Simon's house last night, and you were very gracious, and you said, oh, well, look, if you haven't got anywhere to stay other than the Travelodge, the Premier Inn Hub, incidentally, never has the word hub been more, that word is doing a lot of lifting in that sentence. So I came to your house.
You did? Well,
wow.
Well, we figured that you'd got used to Showbiz North London. And so why change that for you? Because that might just completely throw you.
It's just, but it was, because the whole routine was, because usually, right, with Simon, I just said, because I don't want to get under his feet because I'm there every day. So I turn up at 9:30 and I have a thing. But you said, no, come early. You made food. There was food. Your family was there. It was lovely. You showed me the Thunderbird puppet of you.
Yes.
Which was next to the good lady BAFTA winner, her endorses award.
Yeah. Well,
and I have to say the Thunderbird puppet was more impressive.
Brilliant. I'm going to add that as a note and stick it to my Thunderbird puppet's head.
But just in case anyone doesn't know this, you were a Thunderbird puppet. Yeah.
So what happened was that there were some audio recordings in the form of an LP, a disc vinyl that was kind of released in around 1965 or 66 of Thunderbirds, the Thunderbird show. So they had these audio adventures. And so these guys who were kind of passionate about the show thought, wouldn't it be great if we just made the puppets and did the visuals for those shows? And so they said to me, look, one of the characters is an agent in India, in the Himalayas. Mm-hmm. And they said, look, it's voiced by someone from that time. I hope you're not offended. And I said, no, I'm not offended because it's of that time. And that's kind of fun. And they said, but we had this tradition of making puppets with, someone's likeness, someone's real person's likeness. Yeah. And can we base this on you? And I went, I could not be more delighted. So the character of my likeness is called Galloped In.
Galloped In.
Yeah, Galloped In.
Say it again.
Galloped In. Himalayan agent. But the lady Penelope goes to me. And so the weird thing was kind of when they finished it was seeing my likeness on there, but with a voice from 1965 of a very, very British actor doing an Indian accent. So my son, who was quite young at the time, he just looked and went, that is the weirdest thing ever. Because the voice goes like this and it goes up and down, because this is how people thought that people from the Asia used to speak. And so it was, but it was such an honor. And then they gave me the puppet as a prize.
And it's in a glass box.
It's a presentation box.
It is magnificent. And its head is hanging slightly to the side, like it's going, Play with me.
Well, now you've said that, that's going to scare me. I thought it was kind of cocked to one side in a slightly empathetic,
okay.
way. But now you've said that, it's going to go all chucky.
Yeah,
on me. I'm going to find it
like,
empty.
It's like magic. It is definitely.
Yeah, I'm going to go back, and it'll be empty, and some of our kitchen knives will be missing. And then that'll be it. Then I'll be barricading myself in a door.
Killed by your own Thunderbird puppet.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a tale of the unexpected.
Strung up.
I was going to say, may I drag us back to the script? But why bother?
Well, I mean, there's a script. Aren't we following it now? But also, I have to say, you were very welcome, and you were a perfect guest.
It was lovely
last night. But also, it was slightly kind of threw me that you were discovered outside our house by the good lady BAFTA fellow sitting on a bench.
All right.
She brought you in like a kind of, bedraggled cat.
I want to be clear about this, okay? If I say to somebody, I will arrive at your house at 7:00, I will arrive at your house at 7:00. Okay, so when I go to Simon's house, I say 9:30 because, so he's, and I arrive there at 9:30. I hadn't been to your house before, so I did the tube and then I did the walk, and the walk was slightly shorter than you said. It's about 10 minutes, 7.5. Mm-hmm. So I got to your house and it was 2.5 minutes to go or something like that, maybe a little bit longer. So there was a bench. So I sat on the bench thinking, it's okay, I'll just wait because I don't want to ring the doorbell because it's rude to turn up early. I turn up and then suddenly I had a tap on the shoulder, went, Mark, and I looked up, and because the sun was like, I couldn't quite see who it was. It was weird. And she went, why are you sitting on a bench outside our house?
I mean, it was also a bench in full view of our house.
Yes, but
I mean, you open the door and we see Mark Kermode sitting on a bench.
So had you seen me from in the house?
I hadn't.
But she had.
Yeah, I was too busy kind of trying to prepare it to
get the Thunderbird puppet's head in the right shape. Yeah. Anyway, and then I tried to explain it, and then I made a pig's ear of explaining it, and then we came in, and she went, Sanj, I just found Mark on a bench, and then it was the beginning of a wonderful evening.
It was. Well, that was, and you were most welcome, and you will be again. But next time, don't sit on the bench. I mean, if you're going to sit on a bench, sit at one that's not in full view of the house.
I can hide behind the salt holder, the big thing with the stove.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Perfect.
All right. Anyway, thank you very much. It was really, really lovely. Thank you.
Not at all. A pleasure. Absolute pleasure. And this is very exciting for me. So I'm very excited to be here on the take, sitting in for Simon, and especially with you, Mark. Especially with you. So let's run through what we're going to do today. So in take one today, we are covering...
Well, Gran Turismo with our special guest...
Neil Blomkamp.
Who you have interviewed.
Indeed I did, over Zoom.
Haunted Mansion and The Meg 2, which came out last week, I was off last week, is currently #1 in the worldwide box office ahead of Barbie.
Which is quite something. Also, given that it had a almost celebratedly low Rotten Tomatoes score.
Yeah, well, firstly, Rotten Tomatoes.
Yabu sucks.
Yeah, and also, Anton Bitel. Yeah, well, I will review the film in full. Because I started a little while ago, I have a slightly different view to most critics, and it turns out that the worldwide box office seems to support it.
We'll look forward to that. And in take two, we'll have bonus reviews, which will include...
L'Immensita, Katak the Brave Beluga, and Puffin Rock and the New Friends. Those two are kind of like a very nice double bill because they're both animated features.
Indeed they are.
I think there is something else, isn't there?
Well, we'll have One Frame Back, which is inspired this week by Gran Turismo. So we'll be looking at films about video game competitions. Mark returns to Pretentious Moi. Mark, did you know Anna got both of hers over the last 2 weeks?
I didn't. Okay, but
now you know.
Yeah, but I've been doing it longer, and so obviously I've got more wrong. That there are I don't like this feature.
That anymore. Sounded confident.
Yeah.
And you can support us via Apple Podcasts or head to extratakes.com for non-fruit related devices. And we also have a take 3. And in this week's take 3, we are talking about Enter the Dragon, 4K restoration, 50th anniversary. Plus, we're looking back at...
Yeah, so I should just say this at the beginning of the show. So as you may well know, William Friedkin, who is one of my favourite filmmakers of all time, who made what I consider to be the greatest movie ever made, The Exorcist, died this week. It's very sad news. I knew Billy for several decades and had many interactions with him over the years, and I think he had an extraordinary career. I mean, not just French Connection and Exorcist, but Sorcerer, which you and I have talked about. We'll talk about again. Bug, which I think is absolutely brilliant. I mean, he just an extraordinary body of work, and also just somebody whose company I enjoyed enormously. I will miss Billy terribly, and we're going to be celebrating his life and work in Take 3. So if you get a chance to listen to that.
Excellent. And so now, Mark,
yes,
just diverting for a second.
Yes.
Are you looking forward to your curated weekend of movies for the Rooftop Film
It's
Club?
funny that you should bring that up, Sanjeev, because I'm very much looking forward to my curated weekend. So this is Rooftop Film Club. It's the Peckenham site, which is the Bussy Building, on Saturday the 19th, which is this Saturday, and Sunday the 20th. So that's not this Saturday, it's a week away, 19th and 20th. Still have tickets available for Saturday's Day of Sci-Fi Films. It's a triple bill that you would love. Back to the Future, Arrival, which the good lady BAFTA winner, her indoors, said is one of her
favourite sci-fi films
favourites. And Interstellar, which last night I said to you, what's your favourite Chris Nolan film? And you said that's the one that you'd go back and watch again.
That's the one I'd go back to immediately, yeah.
And then Sunday's Rom-Com Day, very special for you. Notting Hill.
My film debut.
Your film debut.
Third Angry Man in Restaurant.
Excellent. You've Got Mail and When Harry Met Sally. And again, we were having a conversation about whether or not When Harry Met Sally is one of the most perfectly constructed comedy scripts, because Nora Ephron's, just the structure of it is extraordinary. There are special exclusive intros by me and Simon. We recorded them here. It's basically us just talking a bunch of waffle before the film. Rooftop Film Club has comfy deck chairs, iconic London views, and irresistible food and drink. The bar is marvellous. For tickets, go to kermodemayo.com. That's kermodemayo.com to get your tickets now. Also, we've teamed up with, I'll just read this bit out. Also, Kermode Mayo's Take has teamed up with Rooftop Film Club to offer listeners 2-for-1 tickets across their London sites on Wednesdays throughout their summer programme. Just use the code THETAKE at checkout to redeem the offer. I think I did that adequately.
It was beautifully done. Beautifully done. I can't imagine it being done better, actually, other than by someone else. Now, was
that your bit?
No.
I'm sorry,
No, it's just beautifully done.
In a break from tradition, I was actually reading the script.
I would take the compliments, whether they were suggested or not.
Okay.
The emails. Greetings, top production team and super subs. Just wanted to drop a quick line to praise Anna and Rihanna for keeping the ship steady while Mark and Simon are off gallivanting. Inspired by Anna and the fact that Greta Gerwig is awesome, I ordered my Greta Gerwig Barbie shirt from Girls on Tops. Received it today. Smashing. I love it. I'm a member at my local Cineplex and tend to see at least 2 films a week.
Very good.
It's impressive. Film 1 this week was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Anna, please note the order, which I found far more enjoyable than I was expecting. Great voice acting, Ice Cube. Excellent soundtrack, A Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul. Great animation and a reasonably snappy script. Film 2 was Talk to Me. I'm not typically a horror fan. I tend to find them samey and not very interesting. However, I found this to be a fairly original take on the genre with a pleasingly twisted sensibility. Decent acting, good practical effects, and despite some jumps in plot logic, I felt it rattled along at a good pace and held my interest. Next week will be The Meg 2. Almost certainly rubbish, despite Ben Wheatley, and Joyride. I've seen the trailer, which did not enamor me, so I'm pretty uneasy about this one. As a PS, I recently watched Hijack on Apple TV, which is properly rubbish. Some awful acting, terrible script, and bewildering behaving from most of the characters. For shame, Mr. Elba. PPS, I live near the canal in Leighton Buzzard, so we'll wave and holler when Mark and Simon's boat passes. Up with Greta Gerwig and down with anyone who seeks to drain joy from the world. That's from Kevin, and he's included a picture of himself in the said T-shirt.
Well done for using the phrase properly rubbish. Yes. Which is, what was the other thing? Reasonably adequate script. It said it was something like reasonably...
bewildering behaving.
Bewildering behaving. Very good. Very good.
From most of the characters. There we go. So you have seen Haunted Mansion, Mark.
Yeah, Haunted Mansion, comedy horror based on Disneyland theme park ride, rebooting was it 2003 version with Eddie Murphy. This is part of Disney's ongoing project to turn all their theme park rides into films. So, Pirates of the Caribbean, obviously the big success. Jungle Cruise, which I actually kind of rather liked. So this is directed by Justin Simien, who made Dear White People, from a script by Kate Dipple, who went from writing Parks and Recreation to writing the much maligned Ghostbusters reboot, which I thought was, better than a lot of people gave it credit for. And there is a lot of Ghostbusters in this visually, along with, remember that? There's a Bette Midler film, Hocus Pocus.
She played a witch, yeah.
That's right, a little bit of that. So, Lakeith Stanfield, who Simon interviewed for Judas and the Black Messiah, is astrophysicist turned paranormal tour guide. Ben, he lost his wife. He now carries on her spirit photography. Rosario Dawson is recently widowed New York Dr. Gabby, who moves with her son into the titular mansion in New Orleans, where, the title is Haunted Man, so, there are spirits. Owen Wilson is Father Kent, who is the priest exorcist with a backstory. He persuades Ben to come and try and photograph the hauntings in the mansion, only for them all to become trapped in there like the rest of them. Tiffany Haddish is Harriet. Jamie Lee Curtis is Madame Leotta, for whose ghost they end up. Everyone's in it. Here's a clip.
And let me tell you, it will fight back. Ghosts like to fight. For example, 1813, a group of mediums went into the house just a little north of here. It took 21 days. They worked their butts off and they got that deceased owner out of there. But they were all found. How old are you?
9.
Okay, I'm talking organs on the outside.
Oh, 9 is young.
It's not that young, girl. I was driving by 9. Look, I know that might have been an extreme example.
Yes.
But they were a group of amateurs. I am a professional, okay? I'm bona fide and qualified, certified, and I can get rid of what died.
So that's kind of the tone of it. So loads and loads of people in it. We also have Danny DeVito, who I always think is, a great presence.
Good value.
A bunch of other people. Anyway, so, and Jared Leto as the Hatbox Ghost. No, not doing that. No, I think he's, it's kind of, I'm not quite sure what accent it is. But anyway, apparently, so originally, Guillermo del Toro was doing a version of this. This is way, way back. I think it was 2010. And Guillermo del Toro was talking about the Hatbox Ghost and how much he was that was a central character. And then he said that his film was going to be scary but fun, but the scary will be scary. And then it was decided that he moved away from directing, and then his script was too scary. So they started again, too scary for family audiences. Now what we have is a film which, cost a huge amount of money. The problem with it is it isn't scary, fine, but it isn't particularly funny either. There is a lot going on. There's a lot of stuff, but there is nothing going on. There is lots of sort of visuals and, stuff flying and kind of sub-timber and bits that remind you how much you preferred Beetlejuice, but precious little involvement. And, there are a couple of scenes, because there are good performers in it. There's a scene in which Lakeith Stanfield talks about grief, and there's a moment when Danny DeVito does his wisecracking thing. And Danny DeVito wisecracking is great. That's why I love Matilda. I think Danny DeVito is a really, really funny screamer. But these are individual bits in what is essentially a smorgasbord of stuff. I confess, I found it surprisingly dull. When you consider how much is going on and how much talent there is on screen, you go, okay, fine, this is what happens when you try to adapt a theme park ride. You've got that bit, and you've got that bit, and you've got that bit, and you've got that bit over there. And you go, okay, now make a story out of that. Oh, it doesn't.
They're aiming for a Disney family audience.
It's a family audience thing. But what Guillermo is right about is that those things only work if there is a frisson of horror and a frisson, and comedy has to be funny. Has to be. To take an example, Evil Dead, right, which is a horror movie, is really scary and really funny, and it's very, very surprising. There are other things, there are elements of movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark that are really kind of, that really alarming. There's nothing in this that makes you shiver, and there's very, very little in it that makes you laugh out loud. What there is a lot of stuff, and a lot of quite expensive stuff, and some actors that we all admire going, okay, well, it'll pay the bills, but and considering the talent behind it, I surprisingly dull.
Well, that was Haunted Mansion, and still to come, Mark.
Oh, still to come. We're going to be talking to the director of Gran Turismo, who is
Neil Blomkamp,
and we will also be reviewing. Looks back to the beginning of the script. Help me out.
The Meg.
Oh, the Meg 2. Sorry, Meg 2. No, Meg 2. The Trench.
Le Meg 2.
No, not Le. Meg 2. The Trench, or as one could, Meg 2.
We'll be back after this short break. Hurrah, it's us.
Hurrah, Sanjeev.
I think it's us. I like the hurrah, it's us.
But no, you have to have your own thing, though.
Maybe it should be a, it's Sanjeev. Hurrah, it's us. I feel more comfortable with that. Anyway, we have more emails. By the way, if you do want to send emails at any future point, it's correspondence at kermodeandmayo.com.
I am assured that you can spell the word any way you like because we bought all the domains.
Did you?
Because we figured that none of us could spell. There was a whole discussion about Simon going, how do you spell correspondence? So Paul, the great redactor, he just figured out all versions of it and just...
It's something slightly unnerving about someone saying, we bought all the domains.
That's right, yes, we own everything.
It's kind of like Marvel villain. This is an email which
on the subject of which, well done. No, I mean, you're not a vet, but, you turn up you are one of the best things in The Flash.
Well, thank you very much.
You stole the scenes.
If that isn't being utterly damned with faint praise, I don't know what it is.
Listen, you're in it.
I was there.
You were there.
I was there. Back to emails. This one is from Eve, and Eve says, Dear Pink and Blue, it's pretty tough being trans in the UK at the moment and often makes it difficult to celebrate how far I have come. Having recently watched Nimona, however, it gave such a reaffirming feeling and made me cry, jump for joy, and everything in between. With the source material being created by a trans artist and having so many allegories for how trans people are treated, it hit close to home, but celebrated it in such an unapologetic way that was just so joyful to watch. It was amazing.
Very good.
Also, I have unfortunately not watched Barbie yet, but seeing clips of Harry Neff just joyfully existing in a world of other Barbies is an amazing feeling and shows such a positive trajectory towards positive trans representation that provides so much hope and joy to the community. I hope things change for the better, and thank you for the entertainment. Up with LGBTQ+ community and down with TERFs. Eve.
Very good. Thank you for the email. And I'm thrilled that you like Nimona, and I've now seen Barbie twice. Because when I was off, he said, Dad, we're going to see Barbie? He was like, yeah. And actually, we saw it in the Newlyn Filmhouse, which is lovely. And half the audience was dressed in pink. And I thought I was going to...
Well, I was going to ask you, did you...
Yeah, but they were fantastically code compliant. Right. Dressed in pink.
Yeah.
When the film started, really fabulously well behaved.
Did you know there's a kind of website where you can you basically input a picture and they'll send you a picture back of yourself?
Yeah, my kids did it.
Barbie or Ken. What was yours like?
It just weird. It looked like neither Ken nor me. It just looked like some horrible...
Okay, when we next take a break, I'll show you mine.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me who you think it looks like.
Is it as good as the Thunderbird puppet?
Well, I'll leave that to you
to
decide. Okay, so we have Top 10 and we have Streamers coming up. So last week, Streamers, Heartstoppers, Series 2. This is me. Is this IP? Or 1p? Can't be 1p. Me, Ip, on YouTube. Just finished watching Season 2, and I absolutely love it. We'll have to watch both seasons again now. I wish there was Season 3 right now instead of waiting a year for it. I love how it represents everyone in the queer community, and it's so rare for bi people to be represented this well. You Hurt My Feelings. This is at YBolarinwa88 on YouTube.
I'm glad you got to do this.
Do you know what? It's kind of, I'm just assuming that's the name.
I loved season 1 of Heartstoppers. I haven't seen season 2 yet, but season 1 was very charming.
Excellent. This You Hurt My Feelings, given the recent celebration of Greta Gerwig as a female writer-director. Now, you might have to help me with this.
Nicole Holofcener?
That's it. With her work across film and TV seems quite underrated. So we're on to the box office top 10. This week, UK number 10, US number 9, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
I'm kind of surprised by how sniffy many of the reviews were. I mean, it is what it is. A lot of people got off their bike about, it's so old-fashioned. So it's Indiana Jones. It has a lot of Toby Jones, and it has Toby Jones fighting on a train. I actually didn't think the de-aging stuff was bad. Simon wasn't as, but it's...
I thought it was pretty good.
It's fine.
I thought it was pretty good. I think the only thing that I did feel with it... Yeah, I think the Indiana Jones films that have worked best are 1 and 3. And in both occasions, they were sort of religious relics that had some sort of power. Once you kind of drift away from that and you can time travel, I think it's not an Indiana Jones film anymore.
So 3 is Last Crusade, right?
Last Crusade, which is my favourite.
Yes, which is lovely because of the relationship between them. And that works really well.
And it's funny and the action sequences are good. And I like James Mangold as a director very much. You know, everything from Copland to Logan.
Heavy, of course, which actually is a really great film.
Terrific prolific director, but I think that Spielberg films, in their action, have a certain kind of wit. And there was a certain wit in the action that was missing in this. They were all very clever, but there was just a lack of wit in it.
Well, it also didn't help that it opened back-to-back with Mission Impossible, in which you go, that's... you want the exciting action sequence on a train? It's that one.
I have to say, the combination of kind of Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible, you have leading actors whose combined age is about 140, and they both managed to combine to make me feel inadequate.
Yes, that is what they're there for.
Oh, good.
If Tom Cruise isn't there to make everyone feel inadequate, I don't know what he's there for.
Excellent. At UK number 9, US number 8 is Talk to Me.
Which I think is really interesting. The thing I like about it is that it takes a sort of a bunch of ideas that you've seen done before. I mean, it's kind of on one level like Evil Dead for the Snapchat generation, but it sets out its parameters quite clearly, which is that basically kids are using demonic possession as a way to get high. And a lot of it is about addiction, and a lot of it is, it has a kind of real world grounding, but it's a fantastical story. And it's just very, very efficiently played. So it's not loud, quite loud jump scares, although there are a few jumps in it. But it's intelligent because it's about something, but the mechanics of the horror are done very well. So I think, what it's really about is about how difficult it is to be an adolescent, how difficult it is to find your identity in the world and the issues of addiction. But it's telling that story through a teenage party trick, which is that you hold this mummified hand and you become possessed by a spirit, but only for 90 seconds, unless you don't let go of the hand. You go, okay, that's a really smart idea. Good. And they do it really well.
At number 8 in the UK, not charted in the US, is Rocky Aur Rani Ki Prem Kahani.
Now, this is Hindi language rom-com family drama. I haven't seen it because I've been off for the last 2 weeks. I don't think it was press screened anyway, because most of those movies don't tend to get press screens in advance. So if anyone has seen it, please let us know.
Please let us know. The translation for that, since I'm here and I can do this kind of stuff, is Rocky and Rani's love story.
Very good.
That's what it means.
Do you speak fluent? Are you fluent Hindi?
In Hindi?
Yeah.
Yes. I can read and write.
Hindi, well.
And Punjabi.
How many languages do you speak?
I can speak English. Does that count? I can do different accents. Do they count as languages?
No,
Hindi, Punjabi, a little bit of French, which I've been learning from an app for the past year, and a little bit of German that I remember from my school.
Wow.
And then just Klingon. And so it's kind of and a whole bunch that I just make up.
I speak one language. That's it.
Which one? Excellent. At UK
Try
number
the
7.
Tip your waitress.
UK number 7, US not charted, is Joyride.
Which I think, is kind of fun, a little bit, a lot of vom, a lot of gross out, but some sort of sharp observations on identity. Yeah, perfectly fun.
I have an email from Lee, and this says, Dear Joy and Joyful, just out in my local picture house in Showbiz North London of Joyride. What a glorious, raucous and very funny exhibition of friendship and narcotics. It all screamed through at a fine pace. Even the stuff that didn't always worked for the bigger picture. The observations and wit from the script of abiding friendship and growing up and comprehending a 90 to 99% white environment were easy to relate to, even as, in my case, a Korean, British and Aussie male adoptee growing up in Essex in the early 80s.
Right.
Of the 4 or 5 other patrons, I couldn't help but notice, I blame Essex, I was the only Asian in the house. It was the same for a packed art house screening of Parasite too. Anyway, it probably says more about the fact that it was a Monday at 1 o'clock in Crouch End than any race relations study. Down with the shrill haters, up with the relaxed presence and presentation evidenced by your friendship. Love and Lolo, Lee. That's your and Simon's friendship, I think, really.
But it could also be yours and mine.
Well, that's nice. UK number 6 and US number 10 is Elemental.
Which I think... It was funny. I don't know whether you heard Simon's interview with the director. But
I did. Very moving.
Yes. And my view of the film has been irrevocably changed by hearing the director interviewed. So I no longer know whether I'm talking about the film or the interview. When I saw the film, I thought, it's okay, I don't quite get the elements thing. And then I heard his interview with Simon, and suddenly it was like, oh, actually, this seems much more profound to me now. So it was a perfect case of an interview actually made the film better for me.
So UK number 5, US number 7, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, Part 1. How's your hat?
I would yeah. I would have, I told you I had an email from, I think it was one of the editors or something, asked whether they could have that framed. I have kept that notebook. It's so exciting. And I know the plot doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter. It is so exciting. It's the kind of movie in which you can put a face mask on and suddenly the eyes match up and the teeth match up and your height changes and everything, it's fine. It's measurable, but the action sequences are just, it's Buster Keaton level of wow, isn't it? It's just...
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. And it is a thrill ride. But also, and Simon Pegg's a friend of mine, and I'm just really proud and pleased of Simon's character's development from, slightly comedy sidekick in his first appearance and now being a fully fledged member of the team.
Yeah.
And he's got great comic timing and he's a good actor. And now he's kind of running around as well.
And you know that he said that when he was doing the stuff when Tom Cruise is in the parachute and he's talking to them and the thing, the dialogue is actually Tom Cruise in the parachute. He said because Tom insisted on that was, it won't work otherwise. Okay, so you've got to drive the bike off the cliff again?
Yeah, I know. You've been doing it six times in a day?
6 times. The first time he thought he let go of the bike a bit late.
I know, it's nuts. Are you a little surprised that it has perhaps underperformed at the box office?
Has it underperformed?
I think it has a bit.
Really?
Yeah, I think that we haven't got to the totals yet, but I think that the last 2 Mission Impossibles did better, box office wise.
Really? Okay, well,
I think so.
I mean, we did have an email from somebody who said that they were bored by it.
Really?
Yeah, no, I know. My reaction is the same. I mean, obviously, everybody's response is valid and, whatever, because
sure.
all responses are completely subjective. But I did think Tom Cruise threw himself off the side of a mountain on a bike 6 times. And the thing with the train at the end, there's the carriage, and then there's the carriage, and then there's the carriage, and then there's the other carriage, and then there's the other carriage. Bored?
Yeah.
It's like,
what more does he need to do?
It is Russell Crowe in Gladiator. Are you not entertained?
He should have held onto that bike a little longer, just a little longer. UK number 4, US number 4 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I haven't seen this. I was off and I confess that I didn't rush to see it. I will catch up with it. But the thing it is worth, the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, did you know that when it came out, it was 1990, whatever, was the most successful independent movie of all time?
I did not know that.
Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
Took a huge amount, it cost nothing at all, but it was, and people go, it wasn't independent. You go, no, it was independent outside the studio system. It was the most successful independent movie of all time.
That wasn't animation, was it?
No, that was live. That was guys in rubber suits. Guys in rubber suits.
Yeah,
it was that movie.
It sells. UK number 3, US number 2, The Meg 2.
So currently, according to just Screen International today, number 1 in the global box office ahead of Barbie. We will do a full review later on in the show because it wasn't reviewed last week. I think I'm out of step with critics, but I think I'm in step with the audience.
We have a correspondence on that, so we'll include that later.
Okay,
we'll include that later. UK number 2, US number 3 is Oppenheimer.
There's been so much discussion about this. We had some of it at your house last night with Child 2. And it's fascinating to hear what people take from it. The thing that everyone's agreed on is that Cillian Murphy is astonishing. If he doesn't get Oscar nominated, well, I mean, I know the Oscars from Oscar, but he deserves, because it's extraordinary. I think the most remarkable thing about the film is using the IMAX format to do close face stuff. Because when you think of IMAX, you think of landscapes, you think of huge explosions, you think of all the spectacle. The most interesting thing about Oppenheimer is that they've turned the face and his face into a spectacle. And there are very few people who could get away with that level of intent. I mean, his face is the size of a house. I have some reservations, but I still feel I've only seen it the once and it felt slightly cold to me. But that may be me. You've seen it, right?
Yeah, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was incredibly absorbing. I mean, it's a 3-hour courtroom drama, really, with some bits kind of added in. But I think in customary style, I think Christopher Nolan does something different with that courtroom format. In terms of time, in terms of action, in terms of sound, particularly, which I thought was brilliant. I did And I did love it. I did enjoy it. I thought Robert Downey Jr. was brilliant in it as well. Always great to see Tom Conti, because the last time I saw him was in Paddington, being attacked and having his head hair shaved off by Paddington. But one of the two things I wanted to mention. One of I thought, I don't know if you think this. I thought there was unnecessary nudity.
Yes, it is. As I'm thinking about it, I'm trying to remember previous Chris Nolan sex scenes, and I can't. And I do think that the sequence in which they're in the courtroom, she imagines, the lover,
Florence Pugh.
Yeah, you go. Really?
I mean,
I kind of know that already. I'm not sure that that's the way to do that.
It seemed a little misplaced to me, actually. And the other thing I just wanted to flag up.
Yeah, you raised something last night which I had never heard of, which was...
So this was in the news when Oppenheimer was released in India, which is that there is a scene where, Oppenheimer's famous quote, which is, "I am become death, destroyer of worlds," which is a line from the Bhagavad Gita, which is a Hindu holy book. And in India, they had... there were protests because the utteration of that phrase is used sort of during a sex scene.
Yes, because Florence Pugh finds it in a book.
Yes, and so where it stands in the film is that she finds it in a book. She says, "Oh, look, there's a book. What's this?" He says Sanskrit. Yeah. She goes, "You can read it. Read that line," and he translates it to his famous quote. And initially, I just thought, I'm not sort of prudish about these things, but I thought, it's a film. You kind of juxtapose this, that, and the other. And when I saw the film, I thought, do you know what? I mean, I kind of get the complaint, because to me, that famous quote is powerful because it was a reaction to seeing the bomb go off. In the film, it's done as I'm learning Sanskrit. And we as the audience are supposed to know that's his famous line that he says after the bomb went off. He doesn't say it then, it's not repeated, and it just sits at this moment of nookie, of kind of like intense nookie. And so it felt...
For those listeners who weren't alive in the 1970s, nookie is sex.
It can be. It could be heavy petting.
It's just a word that has fallen out of currency.
It's like...
I'm glad that you're bringing it back.
I like nookie. I mean, I'll put it out there.
Step away. No, but it was a fascinating point because it had not even occurred to me. And then when you said it, I was surprised that it hadn't occurred to me. It was like I was suffering from a cultural blind spot that I didn't even notice it.
No, well, it was kind of because I'd sort of read about the protests and stuff, but it would have struck me as odd anyway, because the nudity struck me as odd because it didn't really kind of help or aid the story in any way or the characters. If that had been shot differently, I wouldn't have thought, well, what that needed was a nookie scene. Oppenheimer. It would have been great. 4 out of 5. 5 if it had the nookie scene. And so, anyway, that's just that. Anyway,
there was a guy called Craig Hasoda who some time ago wrote a book called The Bare Facts Video Guide, Where to Find Your Favourite Film Actors Naked on Film. And it was literally just a list of like the title, and it went 53 minutes, left buttock.
No, really?
Literally.
Did anyone buy that? I mean,
it was a cultural thing.
Really?
It was literally a previous century.
I have a no nudity clause in all my contracts. Yeah, insisted upon by the filmmakers. It's not my be.
Tell him to keep his clothes on.
So we'll have some, there's a couple of bits of correspondence about Oppenheimer, which we'll get to in take 2. Excellent. But more importantly, UK number 1, US number 1 is Barbie.
Well, I reviewed it. I loved it. I've seen it twice.
We have an email here which says, "Hi Barbie," and "Hi Barbie, MTL FTE grade 3 violin." At the risk of contradicting myself, I wanted to add to the litany of comments that have been written about the Barbie movie.
Yeah.
I went to see it over the opening weekend, and quite frankly, I loved it.
Excellent.
It was joyful, it was smart, it was funny, and it was packed out. I left with a spring in my flat feet after seeing a blockbuster end with a joke about a very female rite of passage. What has left me really disappointed over the last few weeks is the huge number of articles written about how Barbie is not feminist enough, or the lack of diversity of body shape within the Kens in the film. Complaints that this movie is being held as a feminist masterpiece, but it's just a vehicle for capitalism, and maybe Gerwig isn't the progressive she claimed to be. Quite frankly, it boils my blood. This is the biggest box office success by an original film written and directed by a woman ever, and all we can do is criticize it for not being feminist enough. I'm reminded of Gloria's rant in the movie of the inherent contradictions of trying to exist as a woman within the patriarchy. But somehow the writers of these articles didn't think about this and how they were precisely playing into this trope that nothing we do is ever enough. You know what Barbie is? It's a wonderful, joyful, blockbuster movie which by some miracle also gets to be feminist and full of jokes that would have been written off as not mainstream enough because they're about the female experience just a few years ago. Gerwig did films like Lady Bird and Little Women, which were thoughtful and dramatic films about the female experience, acted amazingly and brilliantly written and directed. And she did not get the recognition she deserved. She has now written and directed one of the biggest box office successes of recent years, yet we still want to tear her down for not being feminist enough. I can't help but think of all the wonderful, fun and action-packed movies directed by men that were never subjected to this level of scrutiny. Christopher Nolan can write and direct lots of films of white men talking to other white men, and he is the visionary. Seriously, I want to go and live in Barbie land for all its flaws. Down with the patriarchy, up with women supporting women, Susie.
Susie, that is absolutely on the nail. Nail, hammer, hit, whatever the thing is. I mean, I always remember the old analogy, as somebody who's a, bleeding heart lefty, I am. Everybody always said, the right don't have to fight the left, just let the left fight itself. And it's like, yeah, for heaven's sake, it's a Barbie movie that actually owes a debt to Todd Haynes' Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story. That is wildly subversive, and it's really good fun.
Well, while we go and play guitar at someone,
that's always my favourite line in the film.
Well, let's have a break.
Sit there while I play guitar at you.
Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. While you're here, check out all the other videos because they're cool too, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you want to keep up to date with everything Kermode and Mayo's take, then check out our social channels.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
I mean, I would. I have done.
Excellent.